Happy Monday and welcome to the Just Baseball Show. You got Jack McMullen and I'm Peter Apple. And today we are evaluating Fangraphs player projections for the National League. We're going to go through each team in the National League. Jack and I will get our biggest takeaways from those projections, whether those be positive or negative. But before we get to that, we're also going to talk about some early spring training standouts in the National League. And it is all brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. While we wait for baseball, BetMGM has an awesome promo, an any sport parlay boost token, which you can use to get a bigger payout on any of your wagers. Today, on Monday, number 5, Houston takes on number 9, Texas Tech in college basketball. That's a good one to get a bigger payout on. But remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. Jack, you're down there in Port St. Lucie, and I said, do you have any spring training takeaways? And all you texted me was Sandy, period.
Sandy. By the way, this is like the first year that I couldn't tell you a single player on Houston or Texas Tech. I see LJ Cryer is on Houston. I think Cryer was at Baylor before that. Yeah,
I,
he's
sh-
on his
I
fifth
shouldn't
year
have
of
even
college.
mentioned Houston, Texas Tech in the ad read because Jack's about to just
No,
transition
but
from the
like,
Just
dude,
Baseball show
I've
to the
been
Just College Basketball show.
no. Here's the thing. If you guys agree with me in the YouTube comments, like actually let me know. I have been a college basketball diehard for my entire life until last year. And
Hmm.
last year I hardly watched because it was like, oh, okay, Edie and then who?
Hmm.
And this year I've hardly watched because it's like, all right, Cooper Flag and then who? And I just haven't watched college basketball. So if you're with me, like you were a college basketball diehard and you feel like the last 2 years have just kind of stunk, like let me know to make sure I'm not on that island. But I like your effort with the read. Sandy was the only word that I texted you back in Jupiter now after the day trip to Port St. Lucie. That's the fun part about spring training. It's like I'm in the same room every night. We're good. But dude, I mean, we can get into it now if you want. Like I know we're gonna kind of make it all encompassing, but
Go ahead.
uh,
Let's just get to it because
I mean,
it's 98-99. It just brings a smile to your face, right? I mean, you in the
dude,
booth too. Like, I think everybody, no matter, if you are even a Braves fan or a Phillies fan or a Mets fan, like seeing Sandy back and pitching like the guy that we
yeah.
know he can be is just, again, better for the sport.
So you know I love McClanahan. Like
Yes.
McClanahan is one of my favorite pitchers in Major League Baseball. And it's going to be awesome to like see him back and ramping up and it's like, "Oh, McClanahan hit 99, he looks right." It's not the same sensation as Sandy for some reason because like Sandy is in this era of max effort, in this era of winning a Cy Young at 160 innings. He's not that. He's 230 innings winning a Cy Young unanimously. Like he's a throwback in the best way. And it is so much fun to watch him operate. And the fact that he came out, I know it was only an inning, but 17 pitches, 13 for strikes, and he was 98, 99 right away, and the changeup was 90, 91 right away. Like that's Sandy. And we talk about guys ramping up in a year removed from Tommy John surgery.
Mhm.
I know Marcus Stroman put that video out that was like 0 to 160 innings. Who's done that? Nobody ever. Like, okay, I hear you, but I think about what expectations could be for Sandy Alcantara this year. Like, oh, innings limit off of Tommy John surgery, right? Is he going to cap at 175? He could throw 230 innings again, and I'm not batting an eye because he's a unicorn. He's one of a kind. I want to say like the last man standing, like the last of his kind in Major League Baseball, but it was so much fun to watch today.
He really is one of the last of his kind. I mean, we're going to get into the Fangraphs projections, right? We're going to look at, different innings eaters, how guys stack up, versus the rest of the field. And his projections are still pretty high, but obviously they're factoring in him coming back from TJ. But there's only a few pitchers that you can really slot in 200 innings. And even though Sandy is coming off an injury, it's hard for me not to believe
It's
that's going to
it's
happen.
crazy, and like I know we're gonna look at the bat projections and all that. I have no idea what they're expecting for Sandy in terms of innings output, but I'm not putting a limit on that guy. Like that was insane to watch. And dude, like there have been a lot of guys. Robbie Snelling was like 91, 92 last year. He was 97 today. I was like, what do we got going on here? Max Kranick was 95, 96 with 18 inches of vert. Like spring training's been really fun, and I know it was fun for the Mets too. There were two guys yesterday that stood out.
Absolutely. Clay Holmes threw three perfect innings. We saw the kick change. We even saw the cutter. Like Clay Holmes, I had to go back because I was like, when's the last time he even threw three innings in a spurt ever, even out of the bullpen for the Yankees or
Yeah.
back when he was on the Pirates? No, sir. This is a new pitcher in Clay Holmes, and he looked great. And then, of course, Juan Soto homered in his first spring training at bat. He actually did the same thing for the Yankees last year, and both home runs went to left center. He just he makes his mark. And but how
He's a
else could he?
performer, man.
He's worth $765 million now. He better be making his mark.
Worth it, or that's what he was paid?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
again, we open this can of worms.
it's like,
Um,
yeah, whenever he does something good, it's like, well, he should. He's getting paid more money than
right.
Shohei Ohtani.
He's getting paid to do this. He's a showman, man. He's one of the best showmen in Major League Baseball. And you saw it with the Yankees last year, but I mean, coming in, the fanfare just on the backfields, like seeing the videos of him walking out of the clubhouse for the very first time. He has the look of that New York superstar, and the fact that he did that right away. He knew what he was doing. Like, I'm not saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to hit a home run because that's what I do. But, I mean, if you didn't think he was getting his A swing off in that first plate appearance, you were sorely mistaken. And he's a performer, and I think the Mets are going to love this. And the tandem of him and Lindor for the next 8 to 10 years is going to be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, they're gonna have some fun over there in
They're
Queens.
going to have some fun. I
One
will
more,
say,
one more
I
showman. Oh, go ahead.
sure, but I will say about Clay Holmes, like I watched a couple of those kick changes back. That's a really good
Yeah, it is.
pitch.
Yeah.
Really good. Like I saw Ben Gambled roll over one, and I watched the way that it kind of fluttered towards the plate. And I'm like, is anybody getting on top of this pitch if it's in the mid to high 90 or mid to high 80s? And I don't think so, unfortunately. Um, for me, it's really all about workload with him. You watched him in the ninth inning. You watched him in the eighth inning, back end of the year when Weaver took over those closer, opportunities. Like he gets ground balls at will. If he can do that, and he has another pitch that can induce ground balls at will, and that kick change, like it's really just all about innings output for me because I think he's going to be a good starter. The question is it 110 innings? Is it 150 innings? I have no idea just yet.
And he gets a good amount of swing and miss for a like ground ball dominant reliever. But adding a kick change to your point will lead to more ground balls, but it'll also lead to more swing and miss, which he could certainly need. And I think you need to develop that extra pitch in order to become a legitimate starter and to see it working right away so
That
early.
is wild.
Yeah, again, Soto and Holmes, Mets fans got to be happy. Another fan base that's got to be happy with their superstar, Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah.
I was watching that game. He's just such a freak of nature. Two home runs, and I think a big positive one from each side of the plate. That right-handed swing looked great. And Bryce Spalding, you can follow on Twitter. He covers the Reds. He does a really good job. He tweeted that Ellie De La Cruz, he's good. Just wrap him in bubble wrap until the season starts. And I couldn't agree more. Like, there's no reason to keep running him out there other than just to get simple reps. But I don't need him running at full speed. Just get us to opening day, Ellie.
How about once a week, right? You run them out
Yeah.
there on Saturdays, and like it's good. You got the weekend vacationers from Cincinnati coming down to Arizona. They have the opportunity to go see Ellie. They're not going to be there on a Tuesday. Like maybe spring break week, you can run them out there Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. But for the most part, I would just Saturdays exclusive for Ellie. That'll be good.
In the same division, another great performance that I saw. So good to see Justin Steele back and shoving. He
Yeah.
was dealing with injuries last year. We all know how good he is, but to see him go 2 innings, 5 Ks, that fastball, it was cutting at will. He just looked really, really good. And I also wanted to bring him up because his projections, again, when we go over the Bat X and the ATC, looking at pitchers and hitters both in all in the National League, like his projections are legit. And again, he showed it in his first outing in spring training.
He's so important. Like I look at the National League Central and I think about the guys that are most important to team success. And obviously Ellie De La Cruz is up there. I think Hunter Green is up there as well. There are some offensive pieces, like I think O'Neal Cruz's offensive production is massive for the Pirates. But I look at Justin Steele and I look at the tandem of him and Shota in particular, and I just say if they're good, if 40% of your starts are all-star caliber starts from Steele and Shota, you're in a really good position with that lineup. Tyone, I have no idea what he's going to be. He was awesome last year. Is he going to repeat that? I don't know. He didn't look like that for a couple years before that. Then he looked like that. What's he going to look like now? I'm kind of blank slating it going in. And then like a Boyd, I'm blank slating it going in. But Steele and Shota, I set these expectations, and if they meet them or exceed them, I'm really optimistic about what the Cubs can do.
And the projections agree with you.
Yeah.
Loving Steel, loving Shota. So again, what this most of this episode starting right now, what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at the Bat X projection for hitters and the ATC, which stands for average total cost for pitchers. And the reason we're using both of those is they were voted in back-to-back seasons as the best projection systems in each category voted on by Fantasy Pros.
Okay, I was going to say, who votes on that? Like, is there a
Me.
committee?
It's just me. I decided. No,
Is
I'm
there
just
a
kidding.
banquet to
Yes.
celebrate?
Fantasy Pros do they have there's plenty of projection systems that help in gambling, that help in fantasy baseball, that just help the MLB watcher go on to Fangraphs and look at where their team stacks up compared to others. And ATC has always been the most accurate for pitchers, and the Bat X um, has always been the best for hitters. So we're going to look
Gotcha.
at both. We're going to compare them. We're going to look at some positives and negatives, our biggest takeaways from each team. Now, I created a Google Doc. I have a bunch of takeaways. I'm going to throw them over to Jack. Are you buying? Are you selling? Do you understand? Do you disagree? We'll go
Yep.
team by team, starting in the National League East. And the first one that surprised me here, and generally speaking, the projections on the Phillies lineup are pretty low, which, and again, I'll explain how. So, Trey Turner, for example,
Yep.
projected 274, 325, 441 slash line with a 112 WRC plus and a 3.7 FWAR. That would make him, based on their projections, a borderline top 10 shortstop. That doesn't sound great. 19 home runs, 23 stolen bases. And it doesn't sound great. And he's still projected the highest FWAR in the lineup. Like Bryce Harper is projected below 30 home runs. Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, Max Kepler, Nick Castellanos, all projected for a WRC plus below 100, 103 for Boehm. So he's the only one in that group above 100. My question to you is, are you buying that the Phillies lineup might be a little overrated going into the year?
Uh, uh, No, I'm not buying it. I will also say that projection systems are meant to be slightly conservative. Like,
I
no,
agree. But what I
and I want to get that out of the
Yeah.
way
So I
too, because
also I want to nip that in the bud too. I'm comparing it to other projections.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
so I'm not comparing just the Phillies to
Okay,
what everyone else did in 2024 and be like, this isn't that great. I'm comparing the Phillies conservative projections to
got it.
other teams' conservative projections, and the Phillies lineup is not quite stacking up to those other elite teams like we
Got it.
obviously would think, right? The Phillies won 95 games last year. They're
Yeah,
an
yeah,
incredible offense. We know they built this great starting pitching staff, but it's ran through the offense, right?
yeah.
So that's where I'm coming at you. These are
So
conservative in nature, but compared to other conservative projections for other teams.
yeah, so I would assume most projections have Harper around 30 or above 30 homers. But he had 21 homers in 126 games in 23, and then he had exactly 30 in 145 games in 2024, and he's going to be 32 years old. So I understand like why projection systems may not like it, but the point that I want to make crystal clear before we get deeper into this is the projected WAR leaders in this are Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt Jr. at 6.9.
Yeah.
I went back 15 years in Fangraphs, and there was not a single full season aside from that COVID shortened 2020. Like there
Yes.
was not a single full season where the WAR leader was at 7 or under. Like they're going to be conservative. They're going to lowball the best. They're probably going to highball the worst, to be honest. And that is where expectations are, right? Did
Mhm.
you exceed expectations? Nobody has like a great year if they meet expectations. If Aaron Judge has a 7-win season and he plays 162, chances are we're kind of disappointed in Aaron Judge. If Bobby Witt has a 7-win season and he plays 162. We're sort of kind of disappointed in Bobby Witt because we are expecting 10, and that's so unfair, but we're expecting a 9-win season, a 10-win season,
Mhm.
because that's the kind of standard that they set for themselves. So I just wanted to make that clear that like they're gonna be a little conservative, but to the original question, I don't agree with them being more. This would be bearish, right? On the Phillies, bullish is good, bearish is bad. I don't agree with them being more bearish on the Phillies. I think that Phillies lineup is really darn good. I think they're very talented. It's in an older school way. Like Turner's value comes from a low walk rate, and he's going to hit around 300, right? Schwarber is going to strike out a lot, but he's going to hit 45 homers. So I don't think they do things that projection systems love, but they're going to end up being good, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. I just don't necessarily agree with it.
Okay.
The reason why is like I think I'm just after going all over all of these and I spent all day kind of coming to conclusions based on this because some have lower projections, but I disagree. Like I don't know if I disagree with these projections.
Yeah.
Like I
So
think Trey
listen, if you want to fade the Phillies, that's fine with me. We
not
can monitor that.
not fade the Phillies. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just comparing them to the elite of the elite in their division and throughout the rest of the National League. I'm like,
Yeah.
is this lineup actually as good as some people might think? Like, is Trey Turner probably a borderline top 10 shortstop at this point? Like, he hasn't been great over the past few seasons. Bryce Harper has diminished slightly. JT Realmuto is rounding third base kind of on his career. We got Alec Boehm, who already made noise in this clubhouse, like,
Don't.
and not really his fault. They wanted to trade him. Like,
No.
Stott is probably a below average hitter. I don't know. I'm cooling.
Okay, so number one, never disrespect Bryce Harper like that ever again. He is going to be at the peak of his powers
No,
until
I
he
know.
decides he
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
want to be.
he's good. I didn't mean to say that. You're right.
Um,
I take that one back. The
Trey
rest,
Turner, I absolutely think is a back end top 10 or a borderline top 10 shortstop in baseball. I absolutely think he's in the 8 to 12
but that's
range.
not great. That's like this is Trey Turner. Like he's on a $300 million contract. He's 30 years old. Like he should be much better than that.
Yeah, but Trey Turner was at the peak, and we associate Trey Turner with years that did not include Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt Jr. and Ellie De La Cruz. Like, there's been an influx of young shortstops that are really freaking good, and we got to keep that in mind. So, I don't think it's an indictment on Turner and him getting worse, although the numbers have gotten a little worse as he's aged, and that's just going to be par for the course. But like, I don't know. I don't think it's crazy to view him as a fringe top 10 shortstop. Stott, it might be optimistic thinking for me because like center field production can't be worse. Stott can't be worse offensively. Bohm after that April can't be worse. So that's probably my optimistic thinking, and this is me ignoring the projections, but I don't know. I think this lineup is really freaking good.
I guess, yeah, I'm cooling on really freaking good because I think Trey Turner is going to be good. I think Bryce Harper is going to be good. And then Schwarber's going to get to his power and he's going to be perfectly fine. But, in the dog days, like his Real Muto, his Bohm, his Stott, his Marsh, his Kepler, his Rojas, Castellanos, like,
I
are
like
these guys
Kepler.
even average hitters?
We'll
And if they're
see.
not, this Phillies team is probably going to finish third.
Yeah, we'll see.
One other projection, the rotation looks really good, though. And that's what's going to keep them afloat here. I
Of
mean, their
course.
offense is still good. Um, Andrew Painter, I wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
They don't love him whenever
Don't
he
love
ends
him
up coming up.
because he's coming off TJ and hasn't debuted yet.
Yeah, 63 innings at a 4.23, less than a strikeout per nine, more than three walks per nine. That's a projection I'm not buying.
Nobody knows how to project Andrew Painter at
Yeah.
this point. He didn't throw in 20. He didn't throw in what 23. He didn't throw in 24. Like nobody knows how to project him.
Yeah.
So I any projection I see for Andrew Painter, I'm going to throw out the window.
Let's move over to the Braves. Projections look much better offensively. And one guy that I wanted to highlight is a Sean Murphy bounce back. 110 WRC plus 3.5 WAR. That would be the seventh highest among catchers. It's good to see them kind of just like, yeah, we don't really care that Sean Murphy had a tough year. Like he's going right back to it. But on the flip side, Orlando Arcia's projections are similar or worse than what he did last year, right? We even said we've been saying for weeks, months in the offseason that shortstop production can't get any worse with Orlando Arcia. They're basically saying it's probably going to stay the same. Projected to be tied for 50th in F WAR at the shortstop position. That's among 110 that'll even play a game at shortstop that they're projecting. I mean, in the 70 WRC plus range, the defense is going to be decent. They don't even think it's going to be that great. Braves, I'm surprised that they are just saying, you know what, Orlando Arcia, here's the keys to the shortstop position. And then you could bring up Nacho Alvarez, of course, but that's going to be the one hole on the Braves. And I think they're fine as long as he plays decent defense.
They're going to be totally fine. It's funny that the projections hate Arcia that much,
Hate
but
him.
it feels for some reason like they're okay just tipping their cap and conceding the shortstop position when there were free agents available.
I
And
know.
I understand like left field you can fill out, and they did it with Profar, but you wanted to pay Profar instead of Kim, really?
Yeah.
And you have this starting pitching surplus, like you have no interest in going to get just a blocked shortstop, like really? I don't. I'm thinking, guys in like even in Tampa, like Slavis Basabe comes to mind. Couldn't he just be better than Orlando Arcia? There's a world. What's he going to cost? Nothing.
I'll give you even a better example of a guy that the Rays would probably want to move off of. Taylor Walls, higher projected WRC plus than Orlando Arcia,
Seriously?
and he
That
could play
that's
good
kind of
defense.
crazy to me.
Is it though? Because
Yeah,
Orlando
kind
Arcia is
of.
projected for horribleness, not just all right. Like Taylor Walls is also kind of projected down there. They could have easily just made that trade, and at least he's projected a little bit better. Fine defense too. They didn't make anything. They're just like, yep, here are the keys, Orlando Arcia.
Interesting. Yeah, no, it's weird.
Looking at the rotation, Schwellenbach leading the pitching staff in innings, I thought was kind of cool.
That is cool.
The fifth spot in the rotation is projected to mostly just be a revolving door with Grant Holmes, Ian Anderson, and AJ Smith Shawver, with Holmes likely being the most effective. The rotation does look good. Like, you know how we say Reynaldo Lopez is probably going to take a big step back? They don't think so. They think Schwellenbach is going to shove. They think Sale's going to get right back to it. And then once Strider is healthy, he's getting right back to it. Looking at the projection systems, it's clear to me that they think the Braves are the best team in this division.
Also hilarious. Slavis Basabe, I missed this. I guess I was preoccupied. DFA'd and traded to San Francisco for cash.
There you
So
go.
funny. So just pick another rando. Like, is it
Taylor
better than
Walls.
Orlando Arcia or
Taylor
not?
Walls might be
Yeah,
better than
Walls
Orlando Arcia.
better than Arcia or not? We'll find out. Uh, it's just so hard because I look at the Phillies starting rotation. I'm like, who's better than them? But then I look at Atlanta's healthy lineup and I say, who's better than them?
Yeah.
Schwellenbach leading the team is in innings is really interesting, and he broke out last year, so he's not a fair breakout pick, but he's absolutely a middle of the rotation starter. And when they can run out Sale, Strider, Schwellenbach, Reynaldo Lopez, we're cooking with gas, man, and then fill out the five.
That's the thing. It's like when you look at the Phillies, they have a great rotation too, right? You know, that front four with Wheeler, Nola, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, and then you go down to Jesus Zardo. But the Braves can maybe be a little bit worse, but their offense is going to be better.
Yeah.
That bullpen is still really good. So after looking at those two, I would take the Braves at least
Are
right now.
are you buying the Grant Holmes thing as the
Yeah.
five?
I when Arm and I did our National League breakout picks, he was my guy.
Grant
He was
Holmes
my guy
was.
to win this fifth position. Do you remember when we were in Milwaukee and we watched him shove 5 innings, 1 run,
I
eight
wasn't
Ks
really
against the
watching. I
Brewers?
was just conversing with a bunch of people. That was a
It's
great
true.
hang in Milwaukee.
It was a great hang, but he looked great, and I expect him to win this fifth starter role. But it is good to see that the projections are still high on AJ Smith Schaffer and Ian Anderson. We'll see. All
We'll
right,
see.
we'll move over to the New York Mets. I thought this was interesting. Pete Alonso projected more home runs than Juan Soto, 36 to 34. And now again, conservative projection systems. Only Schwarber, Brent Rooker, Jordan, Shohei Ohtani, and Aaron Judge are projected for 34 home runs or more. So the projections are saying these are two of the best power hitters in baseball. I was a little bit surprised to see Pete Alonso above Juan Soto. Are you not?
I'm also surprised to not hear Adam Frazier or Andrew McCutchen in that group above Pete Alonso. I'm not that surprised, to be honest, because Alonso's value comes from hitting homers. And Soto's value comes from not seeing a pitch, and then when he sees a pitch once every other night, he hits it out. So
Yeah.
like I think Alonso's going to see more. I'm not shocked. I think those guys both go for 35 ish, and the fact that it's what's separated by two, you said, or
Yeah.
one, 35
Two.
to 34,
36 to
36,
34.
36 to 34. Like that's kind of zero to me. Like two is interchangeable.
Mm. All right. Next one. This one kind of shocked me. Francisco Alvarez projected for a 4-win season.
He's a
Remember these?
very good defender.
And they agree and then some. So that 4 F4 number is the fifth highest among catchers in baseball and third overall in the Mets. And it's led by the second highest defensive WAR among all catchers.
Hmm.
Like, it's not this projection of a 4-win season is not because the bat takes a major leap. He's got a WRC plus projected below 100, but it's the defense. Second best in the league. Now, we saw him take a big jump last year. We talked about it on the breakout episode. How the framing metrics, he was in the top 10% in baseball. His arm is one of the best in baseball. He's a good blocker. And that was something that we didn't necessarily see as a prospect, but it's developed in the big leagues. Taking another leap like that, I was like, oh shit. So Francisco Alvarez, the way that he's pitched in Mets fans' brains is that he's all bat. He might be mostly all glove with some homers.
I don't think any Mets fan thinks that he's mostly all bat.
No, that was that what I'm saying is
That was
that
the
was the
initial take.
picture sold to them.
No, this dude can handle a staff,
Yeah.
unlike many in Major League Baseball, and it's such a young age. The fact that he's kind of the heartbeat of that clubhouse already. I know that there are leaders in that clubhouse, but Alvarez is the one that you always see smiling and like having these conversations. It's awesome. He's almost like a vibe curator with the Mets, and he's a really good defensive catcher. If he can handle the game like that, it's not Pat Bailey level, but they've got it right behind Pat Bailey level. I'm stunned that they have it over the Platinum Glover, Cal Raleigh.
Yeah.
That
Right?
doesn't make any sense to me. I think that's Cal Raleigh disrespect,
I
and I don't
agree.
stand for that. But I like the love that they're giving to Francisco Alvarez, and it feels like what they're saying is if the bat's back, if he can hit 20 homers,
Top
watch
five.
out.
Yeah,
Watch out.
I agree. So similarly to the Phillies offense, I was a little bit surprised, not very surprised, because it's not a lot of big time names, but just how down the projections are on the Mets pitching staff. Sean Manaea an ERA over 4? I'll bet against that. Peterson an ERA near 4? I'd probably bet on that. But Senga like a 3.72. Holmes is actually projected to lead this at 3.66, but it's only in 130 innings. And then they've
Okay.
projected a lot of Griffin Canning, a lot of Paul Blackburn. It doesn't look like anyone's going to grab the reins in this rotation and be like, I'm a legit ace. It seems like it's a lot of 3 or 4 starters based on the projections
I want to know what their goals are. If their goal is to win the World Series, this rotation's bad for that.
for that. Yeah. Because it's all
If their
about
goal
expectations, right?
is to be a postseason team, their rotation is fine for that. But if
But
their goal is to win a World Series, it's bad. Like Sanga off of missing nearly the entirety of last year, and then Manaya, you're banking on repeating, and I think that's fair because the release is just so funky. But like, if they're getting a bunch of Griffin Canning innings, and in real life it might happen too, like that's not a good situation for a World Series winner.
that's what I'm saying here because it's all about expectations. So when I dog on the Phillies offense, I'm comparing them to the best in baseball. When we dog on the Mets rotation, we're comparing them to the best in baseball because they are two of the best teams in
Yeah, if
baseball.
we expected the Mets to be an 82 win team, we're fine with that
Yeah,
rotation.
this is a good rotation, but not if we want to win this division and not off after spending $765 million dollars on Juan Soto, like
Right.
trying to win it all this year. So again, they could. The projections obviously could be wrong here, but it's not great to see. You want it all to come together, and it doesn't seem exactly like it's coming all together on this team yet.
Yeah, I hear
No.
you.
Nationals, again, disappointment. I was hoping that this offense was going to get projected a little bit higher. They only have three players with a projected WRC plus over 100. Who do you think they are?
Wood,
Yep.
um, Abrams,
Nope.
Lowe.
Yep.
James Wood, Nathaniel Lowe, and not Dylan Cruz.
Nope.
Luis Garcia.
Bang.
There we go.
James Wood is the highest on the team at 112, and that's ranked 77th in baseball.
Yeah.
I guess I just the names look really
We're
cool.
no, we're
Yeah.
really excited. I understand
Yes.
what you're doing because I'm excited too. We're really excited about the promise of Washington Nationals baseball this year and the outfield of Young, Cruz, and Wood, and Abrams taking that next step. And oh, they've got a vet in Low, and we like Luis Garcia and the young pitching. At the end of the day, it's really hard to win NFL football games and it's really hard to win Major League Baseball games. So we have to take our bias and our optimism for that roster in a vacuum away and just look at, oh, well, they have three against the Phillies. How are they going to do there? And then they go to Seattle and they face the Mariners. How are they going to do there? And then they continue the West Coast swing and they see San Francisco. Did they take two there? Like, it's really tough when you start stacking them against like a bunch of different teams and I'm with you. Like I want to be
I want
on
it.
them so
I
bad. Like I
know.
want them to be better this year so bad, but it's really hard to win games against teams that are probably better than you.
Like I was genuinely depressed to see how much they hate my guy Jacob Young. I was like, they
When he
they
gets
think
on
he's
first, he's taking
terrible.
second,
I
no doubt,
know.
no doubt, and he can go get it in center.
Quickest feet this side of the Mississippi.
Yeah,
But
sure.
they don't care about that. They're ruining the reputation of my guys. But yeah, I was pretty disappointed in the projections on this offense, and I was equally disappointed in the projections on this rotation. Right? We saw DJ Hers rack up the strikeouts, and it's like, can he put it together?
That's the
Jake
thing.
Irvin slowed down in the second half, but was really good for a lot of the season. Mitchell Parker put together a good season. We love Mackenzie Gore, you a little bit more than me.
I love Gore. You don't. I do.
It's basically here's what it is. Mackenzie Gore repeats and nobody takes a leap. Like Parker, Irvin, Hers, all mid fours ERAs, 120 to 140 innings. I'm like, damn it, this team's gonna win 68 to 72 games. I was like, maybe 80. It's hard. Where are we getting it
Again,
from?
80's a lot when you go into each series, and it's like, they probably have the more talented roster.
And again, I'm not holding myself to, well, the projections say it, so this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Of course it's not. But what they do is they kind of put things into perspective where you're like, oh, wait, like this is the most common occurrence with guys in this age range with their talent.
Right. If
So
we run a
yeah,
thousand
expecting them
simulations or whatever.
all to just take a leap because they're all exciting. I mean, that's just wishing for something that rarely ever happens. So that would be my kind of my biggest takeaway from this entire division was I was wanting to be really high in the Nationals and then I just kind of fell
It's a
right
hard
back down to
division.
earth.
It's a
Yeah.
hard division to be good in.
So you're Marlins. Um Not a ton of takeaways. One thing that I did want to note is Javier Sanoa and Augustine Ramirez, right? Because teams at the bottom of the division, you're looking for some guys who are going to help them who might not have a starting role on the major league roster on opening day. But to
Yeah.
see these guys ranked fifth and sixth in projected WAR for the Marlins, like really making a good impact. It's not in a ton of games, but the stats look good for guys who haven't even debuted yet. So they're going to be seeing a lot of those guys throughout the season. And Javier Sanoa is the projected best guy who hasn't really, I mean, he had a cup of coffee last year, but
Cup of coffee. Yeah,
yeah.
Sonoha is a guy that can play decent to good defense at a bunch of different spots. So like he has an infield glove, he can play good defense at second. He has an outfield glove, he can play good defense in center. So that'll help. I think he K'd 6% of the time in Jacksonville last year. So he's a premier bat to ball guy as well. So they probably view him as this really high floor utility bat, and I totally understand that. Augustine Ramirez is a guy that everybody should be fired up about. Like, you got to know him a little bit as a Yankee prospect.
Rakes.
He's a huge human being just
Yeah.
standing next to him on the backfields here. And the fact that he was 22 for 24 in the stolen base department, being that gargantuan, I'm like, oh, so you're an athlete too, huh?
Yeah.
I I understand the optimism with both those guys.
Jesus Tinoco becoming the
Yeah.
best reliever on the Marlins. Those are their projections
His
by
slider's
ERA.
disgusting, man. They have some leverage arms that are going to be fun watches. Calvin Fauché, like I know there are some Stuff Plus models. I think our guy Thomas Nestigo does great stuff. TJ Stuff Plus has him as the best, like the best stuff in baseball. Like it's the highest TJ Stuff Plus grade or something. Like his arsenal, Fauché's arsenal is insane. Tinoco's got a slider, man. He
Yeah.
was really good. I think the ERA was like 206 or something in his appearances with the Marlins at the end of last year. And then Cronin and Bender, dude, like they've got some leverage arms, no doubt.
One that I was kind of disappointed by, Max Meyer. Projections just don't love him. 4.64 ERA and 118 innings. Like,
They know, okay, so projections know Meyer better than they know Andrew Painter, but they still don't know Max Meyer. Like, do you know Max Meyer?
well, I feel
I
like
don't
we haven't seen enough to really stamp something. But the thing
exactly.
is, he's been a top prospect kind of for a while now, and we've seen multiple stints down in Major League Baseball, and it hasn't just worked out yet. But it's hard not to look at the slider and look at the fastball and say, like, this guy could be something.
But it was TJ, and then
Yeah.
Velo was down, and now Velo's up. Like we don't know what Max Meyer really looks like post TJ. I don't think.
Yeah. The projections kind of don't know what to make of the Marlins because it's a lot of guys who, have made a debut, right? Xavier Edwards projections, they really love. Sandy, obviously, they got him going right
How
back
many
to
how
it.
many innings do they have Sandy at?
They had him, I would have to go back. I
I
could do,
can look. I can look right now.
yeah, okay. So, but they still have him getting back to it. But yeah, it's the projections are basically saying that the Marlins team is kind of wide open here. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities for this system that Peter Bendix made to we'll see. We'll see what this team looks like. This is the nicest way I could describe it.
What do you think they have Sandy's innings total at?
If I remember correctly, it was like 157.
157 and a third. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, he's. I feel very strongly that he will blow by that.
157 projection off TJ is insane. I mean,
It is
that's
insane,
that's
but
insane.
again, like Sandy's the last of these guys, and
Yeah.
I feel very strongly that he blows past 157.
All right, let's get to the National League Central. We're going to go through each team just like we did with the National League East, but before that, a quick break. Milwaukee Brewers. I was really excited to look at the projections for them, and cold water was thrown on my face. Jack, we all expect Jackson Chorio to take a mega leap, right? Potential superstar player. They don't agree with us at all. At all. Jackson Chorio last year put up a 3.9 F or 117 WRC plus, 17% better than the league average hitter. But we saw in the second half, he just take a major leap. And then, of course, in the playoffs, he was one of the best players in that Mets Brewers series 21 home runs, 22 stolen bases. Projections this year 2.8 F war, 111 WRC plus, only 20 home runs. The only category that he saw a lift in is stolen bases. That one I just vehemently disagree with. I don't think that they're factoring in the talent. I think what they're looking at are some early struggles, and they don't really know how to fully piece together a proper projection for him for such a young guy. And of course, there is the year two where pitchers start to make adjustments and you go through a little bit of a lull. I don't see that happening. I don't see it at all. I think they're wrong on this one.
These projection systems don't account for having that dog in you. Like that's all this is to me. Like they are clearly not that boy nice watchers, and Jackson Chorio is the king of the that boy nice crowd, and he's got that dog in him. So I think we need to recalibrate and account for having that dog in you, and they'll be much higher on Chorio. I see no reason why he gets worse by a win. That's some sort of like glitch in the matrix.
I agree. I mean, just to, talk about that second half 310, 363, 552 slug for a 915 OPS. I mean, he had an OPS over 830 every single month July, August, September, even June. You could throw that in there too. I think they're just wrong on this one. And another one that I was shocked, and it makes me sad. Christian Yelich, 3.0 F4 in 73 games with a 153 WRC plus last year and 11 home runs. This year, 118 WRC plus. So that's fallen off a cliff. Only a 2-win season, but he's playing 50 more games with only 15 home runs. Christian Yelich is not about to run into a wall here all of a sudden. As
He
long as
might
he
have
stays
gotten
healthy, he's going to
fixed.
rake.
Like he got surgery to fix it. Like he might
Yeah.
be healthy for the first time in a long time.
And
How like again, using your word, I vehemently disagree with both of those.
And just for everyone who's wondering about my MLB futures, like to pull back the curtain a little bit, I look at all of these projections, and when I see a team like the Brewers, where the disrespect is projected throughout their lineup, I think to myself, all right, the projections are just too low on the team, and I disagree, and I'm going to bet against it. While with the Phillies, if I start to read into it, I'm like, I kind of agree. That's when I may come to an under. I'm not betting on the Phillies under. It's not something I want to put in my portfolio. I think they're going to be too good. The pitching is going to to be good,
I know
but
you're also going to root for him too. Like you're going to be
yeah, they're
watching
fun
games
as
like I
shit.
can't
I,
believe.
I love watching them in the summer. Like, yeah, I'd prefer not to do that. But like a team like the Brewers, I'll look at the projections and be like, I think these are just wrong. I don't think they're factoring in enough. While others I can kind of get behind. One that I thought was kind of interesting, the trade for Nestor Cortez Jr. is projected to help this team a lot.
Yeah.
Third best in ERA, projected only to Woodruff and Freddie Peralta, and also third in innings, only trailing Aaron Savali and Freddie Peralta. So you could take that as a pro Nestor take or an anti Tobias Myers take. How do you read through that?
I view it as a pro Nestor take.
Mhm.
And at time of trade, I looked at Nestor being added to that Brewers rotation, and I would be, if I were Pat Murphy, I'd be breathing a huge sigh of relief having
Mhm.
Nestor Cortez there. Like his presence really helps if he's the Nestor that the Yankees have had for the last several years.
Yeah.
And hopefully the flare ups are behind him and all of that. But I don't know, Tobias Myers. What was the problem like with Myers? His X stats were worse than his actual stats, or his X stats were better. Like, what's his deal? I know it
No.
was a Verdi fastball.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3.00 ERA and a 4.22 expected ERA. And then you go to Baseball Savant, it's a lot of blue, but he doesn't walk anybody. But I
No, and the
still think he can be
fastball
better than
plays,
this.
man. I like.
Yeah.
It's so funny that I've reversed course on Tobias Myers. I watched enough Tobias Myers, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna play. Savali, no. Like, I'm still out on that whole thing. But yeah,
I still don't mind Savali. But that is one thing. The Brewers, their pitching projections are pretty solid across the board, but they're too low on this offense that was
can
one of the best in baseball last year.
I'm gonna check on Woodruff here. You said ATC you're going off of
Yes.
123 innings for Woodruff. Like I say Sandy's one of the last of his kind. Like I think Woodruff is gonna blow by 123. I don't think
I
he's
agree.
200 like Sandy, but I think he blows by 123. Hopefully he gets to 150 in the mid threes because Woodruff is one of the more underappreciated pitchers in Major League Baseball. He was when he was healthy, and I feel like a lot of people forgot how good he was in the last few years since he's been, really at the peak of his powers.
Agreed. That's why the Brewers are likely going to be added to my portfolio. I'm not sure yet.
Gotcha.
Cubs, positives and negatives. Let's start with a negative. They hate Michael Bush.
That's stupid.
That is stupid. Michael Bush hit 248 with 21 home runs, a 119 WRC plus, 2.3 F4 last year. This season, by projections, batting average drops 20 points down to 229. Home runs drop by 1 to 20. WRC plus down 16 and an F4 at 1.1. What are they
No,
talking about? Why?
no, they're wrong.
They're
They're
wrong.
wrong.
That's all I could. That's the analysis. They're wrong. They just are wrong. I don't get it at all.
Recalibrate.
Yeah.
Yelich and Michael Bush recalibrate.
And it's so
And
funny. I
Torrio
went in.
too.
I went in and I was looking at a couple other things to try and rationalize the projection. I can't find anything. It just doesn't
No,
make any
there's
sense.
nothing.
Yeah, it
No.
just doesn't. Yeah. So we can move past there. And just to make it even crazier, like Carson Kelly is projected at a higher F4 than Michael Bush in
Uh,
82 games.
Kelly can pick it a little bit behind the dish. He can
But
handle his
still,
staff. But no, I'm with
Yeah.
you. I think it's really dumb.
Yeah. I don't understand that. One thing, again, we talked about Justin Steele at the beginning, spring
Yeah.
training takeaways. His projections are awesome. Like return to dominance, not just return to being a very solid pitcher. Like his numbers look better than Michael King, to put that in perspective. Like
Wow.
that good.
Do
So I was
you
like,
agree
hell
with
yeah.
that? Let me ask you, honest question. Do you agree with that?
It's so funny because it's like, do I agree that Justin Steele turns in an excellent season next year? Absolutely. Do I think he's as good as Michael King? No, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
I
it does.
agree with their projections of Steele. I just think they're too low on Michael King.
Okay, fair. Yeah,
Yes. So, yes, I think Steele's going to be one of the better pitchers in the National League next year.
cool.
But back to 2023 Jameson Taillon. I mean, they're out. Back to a low to mid fours ERA instead of the 3.27. I think you and I could probably get behind that. He's more of a fours guy than a threes guy like he showed last year.
I think so. Like, probably. I don't know. It's so weird for me. I don't know how to, I honestly, I have no idea how to digest him. No idea.
One other one, Ryan Presley. You'd think, all right, the Astros kind of got rid of him. No, I mean the projections still like him, grabbing 23 saves to a mid threes ERA, which would be huge for the Cubs. Like, when's the last time they had a great closer? When?
Uh, Carlos Marmol, I think, had an all-star
Oh yeah,
season.
Adbert
No,
Alzolay for 20 minutes.
I think the real answer, it's not Alzolay. I think the real answer is probably, would it have been Chapman or Wade Davis?
Mm,
I'll go through the year by year. Like I'm thinking late 2010s was probably the last time they had a shutdown closer. I mean, actually, Kimbrel in 21 before the deadline was disgusting. Like lights out, gross. I get it. So he was the last one
but they've been in need of one for at least a while, and
for 3 years.
Presley coming in and grabbing that job is huge.
Okay, now this is one that I think is wrong in the other direction. Like, did Presley not look like he was on the downturn last year? I watched all three of those bullpen guys, and I saw Brian Abreu get hit hard early, and I said, this is going to go away. I watched Hader, and I was like, oh, it's finicky, but this is going to go away. And then I watched Presley, and I was like, eh, he is 35.
All right, so
That's the
you're
sensation.
100% right. I didn't really want to bring it up though. I kind of like just getting
I'm
fired up.
willing to bring it up. I'm
Yeah.
willing.
Okay. I understand. Also, shout out Luke Little, projected to lead the team in ERA.
He's a big
Yeah.
boy, throw ball hard. I enjoy watching him, and I don't know if he's going to get leverage innings for them, but I think he's going to get consistent bullpen innings for them. They've got guys there, man. Luke Little, Porter Hodge is
Yep.
somebody that a lot of Cubs fans really like. Palencia was throwing fireballs earlier this week in spring training. They've got options.
They absolutely do. Let's move on to the Cardinals with a fascinating set of projections. Cardinals baseball. Jack, who do you think leads the Cardinals in F4 on the offensive side?
I looked at the Google Doc, and I know it's not Mason Wynn, which I'm
Okay.
floored by.
Yeah, it's Ivan Herrera leading the team in F4. So it could be pro Ivan Herrera or anti Cardinals because he's projected to put up 2.7 WAR in 97 games. That's the same as JT Realmuto in 20 less. Like, so I don't know how to rationalize that take. Is that pro Ivan Herrera? Is that anti Cardinals? Because we can get to the rest of the Cardinals projections on offense and it looks terrible, but Ivan Herrera's projections look awesome.
It's probably anti-Cardinals, and more than anything, it's pointing at Mason Wynn, saying, "I don't believe in you," which is crazy to me. Because how
I
can you
agree.
look at Mason Wynn and say you're not a star? Mason Wynn's going to be a star in 2025.
Cardinals fans, listen to the disrespect for Mason Wynn. 90 WRC plus, 2.1 FWAR. Every single offensive stat is down. He was above average in WRC plus last year and was nearly a 4-win player. They're basically thinking he gets cut in half next year. It's too aggressive. It's too aggressive. And for
He
no
is
good reason.
he's a physical freak, and he's got a year under his belt. He's so young. I think he turns 23 in 2 months or something. Like, come on. This guy's one of the bright young stars in the National League at the shortstop position. Like, let's like him a little bit.
So we both agree that the Mason Wynn projections are off, but I saw Nolan Arenado's projections and they're They're sad, to be honest. They're not even. They just made me sad. I mean, an 89 WRC plus and a 1.4 F4 for Nolan Arenado next year.
Uh, 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 that just it makes me feel not right.
But
And
then
I
you
think
look at it and you're like, I see why in a conservative projection system, how they would be very low on him.
what was the WAR total?
1.4. I mean, the batted ball
No,
quality was bad last year. He's taken a step back a little bit defensively.
he was 3.1 last year.
I
Like
know. It's too
he's
low, but it's also it could be a sign of what's coming. Like why no team really wants to trade for him.
it's too low, man.
It's too low, but at the same time, it's also like, all right, let's go to the pitching side. One arm that I wanted to highlight, Quinn Matthews. Projections aren't crazy, 4.09 ERA in 81 innings, but they are crazy when you consider that he hasn't thrown an inning in Major League Baseball yet. Like guys like that don't often get those type, right? We're talking about Andrew Painter, best pitching prospect in baseball. I know he's coming off TJ, but still a 4.3 in 65 innings. Now that's a harder rotation to crack in, but in the 65 innings, they have Quinn Matthews not only throwing more, but kind of outperforming him by a decent bit. And my main takeaway from that is he has no business not being in the opening day rotation. I mean, what are we doing with Steven Matz here? What do we? Miles Michaelis is going to throw another 400 innings this season.
Yeah, so the thing that you need to account for with that is Steven Matz is making $11 million this year.
Shout out Steven
Michaelis is
Matz.
yeah, shout out Steven Matz
For the
for getting
bag.
his bag.
Sick.
I gotta pull up this spot track page because they're paying those guys a lot of money, Michaelis and Matz. But Quinn Matthews, I love the love. He was our minor league pitcher of the year at Just Baseball, so totally understand it. He was a pitchability arm, 4-year guy at Stanford. A lot of you may remember the name because he threw like an 150 pitch complete game or something in a regional in his senior season. But he showed up in 2024, and it's like, oh wait, the guy that was throwing 89 is now throwing 95. All right, let's do this, and it's good vert. It's great ride on the heater. By the way, Michaelis making $17.6 million this year. Matt's making $12.5 million.
Shout out the
That's
boys.
crazy. Shout out
Shout
the
out the
boys.
boys.
Bag getters, baby. The bag bros.
We could be the type of podcast where like, oh, the Cardinals, what a terrible deal. You know what? Shout out the guys who are getting their bag. That's
Yeah, you know
sick.
what?
It's not going to
Yeah.
help the
Hope you're
team, but who
driving a
cares?
Range Rover. Yeah,
Yeah.
hope you're driving something sick. I will say, like, the Matthews love is great. Only 21 innings for Tink Hence is weird. I think he's going to throw after the All Star break, at least
Yeah.
after the trade deadline, if they can move any of those people. The one that I love is they like Palante. Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
like Andre Palante. It's 138 innings at a 4 even. I like Andre Palante a lot.
Me
I'm
too.
excited to watch him pitch.
Keeps the ball on the ground, really good curveball. They also like Michael McGreevy, and that's a theme in the bullpen because they mostly have McGreevy coming out of the bullpen,
Which is weird.
which is
He's an
weird.
outgetter. He's a 5 starter.
Yeah, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. But again, whatever. We can look at this bullpen and say Helsley, Romero, Fernandez, John King. Projections all look good for them. You know, if these arms in the rotation can just get them to the sixth inning, they have a front four who can shut the door here. And I think that's big for the Cardinals because there's not a lot of things that are big for the Cardinals. So
Right.
the
And
bullpen.
I want to see their direction because they didn't do anything this offseason. I think they were the only team in Major League Baseball to not sign somebody to their active roster, like not sign a free agent
I
to
think the
their big
Mariners
league roster.
did, the Padres did. They might
Yeah.
be the only one. I'm not
I think
sure.
that I think that's actually a fact. They're the only team in Major League Baseball to not sign a free agent to their, to a big league deal, which is crazy to think about, but it's the Cardinal thing right now, man. And you would think if they didn't do that, they would be moving their pieces. They would be moving Arenado. They would be moving Helsley, but they haven't done it yet. They've just kind of held serve for 5 months. But all right, whatever you got to do.
All right, let's move on to the Reds. And this was another team that I got cold water poured all over me. If I'm a Reds fan, I don't want to even open Fangraphs to look at these projections. It is bad on both sides. Bounce backs? Think again. Candelario, TJ Friedel, Noelvi Marte, Will Benson, all of them. based by the projections. I mean, it's not just like, oh, that's okay. It's bad, which I was surprised about. Like Friedel, I can understand. Noelvi Marte, I can understand. Candelario, I do think bounces back here. I don't think they're giving him enough credit. But the reason I'm saying pouring cold water on myself is this is another team that I was looking to back very aggressively in the futures market. And then they come out with a 3.9 ERA for Hunter Green. Damn it. Lodolo 3.99, everybody else above 4. Alexis Diaz not only not bouncing back but getting worse. Putting
How?
up an ERA at 4.2. I'm like,
How?
where
No.
where's the optimism here? Is it just Matt McLean returns?
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Noel V. Marte, I understand the pessimism. I just
Yeah.
like I'm not really about that. But Friedel, that's a weird one to be pessimistic on if you're a projection system, and obviously projection systems have no opinions.
He hits the
It's just
ball so softly. I think that's what's hurting him.
all right, whatever. Like
Yeah.
he found grass.
He found
Yeah,
grass.
I feel bad being mean to this projection system, but then I remember it's a computer with no feelings, so I
Yeah.
can be as mean as I want. This is the one that I think is less valid. Pouring cold water on, like I think it's more valid to pour cold water on Nats optimism because again, you look at them series by series and you say, who are you better than? I think there are more teams that Cincinnati is better than. And it's not accounting for Terry Francona being the manager. It's not accounting for Hunter Green feeling great after a year where he truly broke out. It's not accounting for Will Benson and that added perspective. There was some awesome stuff that Will Benson said about that newfound perspective after last year. It's not accounting for the intangibles. And I feel like the Reds, the story this year is going to be very intangibles based. And I'm excited to see how it comes to fruition.
I can buy into that. One positive from the projections on the Reds, Tyler Stevenson not regressing at all. Truly being one of the best catchers in the league again, which I could buy into. He's been a
I
little
can
bit
buy into that
inconsistent, but when he's good,
offensively.
he's good.
I can buy into it offensively because he's a guy that's like going to hit for a high average relative to the catching position and have some pop in that ballpark. Like I can buy it. They have him grading out good defensively.
Decent, like
That's
good
yeah,
enough.
like that's kind of good enough. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
good
good
enough.
enough to be a solid catcher. Like if
Yeah,
he hits and they project him to hit, which is good because
gotcha.
there have been seasons where he doesn't hit and then he's unplayable.
Yeah,
So that's where they're at on him. Pirates. This one was kind of cool. Paul Skeens, number one projected ERA among all starting pitchers at 2.79. Like
too
2.79.
high.
Yeah. No, but like they're conservative, remember. Like he's like seventh in baseball with like he's like in the middle of like Mason Miller and Andres Munoz. I mean, it's Scooble's like a decent bit behind him. I mean, he's
I'm gonna convince. I don't.
yeah.
When do you think you will be convinced he's the best pitcher on the planet? I think Scooble is amazing. I think Wheeler's amazing. He's the best pitcher in the world.
Yeah. So what we're supposed to do when evaluating baseball players is say, let me see it again. We're supposed to say that, right?
Yeah,
Because
we
we've
had this conversation on the top 10 starting
yes.
pitcher episode. I laid it out for you entirely, and you were like, I
Yes.
agree. The only rebuttal is let's see him do it again. But when do you think you're going to change course and say, you know what? You're right. He's the best pitcher on the planet.
It could be opening day, to be honest with you. Like I could just
Hmm.
watch him once and watching all the pitchers, the best pitchers, all on opening day, and be like, who was the best that you saw?
And that's unfair to Scooble because Scooble gets the Dodgers, and like, I don't know.
True.
That just kind of stinks. But I, I,
I'm just saying it could
I
be that
hear
day.
you.
I'm not
I
sure.
hear you. It could be. Okay.
It could be. Um, one other that I thought was pretty interesting. Caleb Ferguson is projected to lead this bullpen in ERA at 3.76. What? I mean, he's been okay. He pitched for the Yankees for a little bit. He was fine, but in a bullpen with Colin Holderman and potentially David Bednar bouncing back, and the projections like David Bednar, but Caleb Ferguson leading the way. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, they're sleeping on Bednar with a bounce back.
Sleeping on Holderman, I
They're
think, too.
sleeping on Holderman outright, and I
Yeah.
think they're also sleeping on Kyle Nicholas. I think
Yeah,
Kyle
I agree.
Nicholas is very good.
That's why I wanted to bring it up. Is I'm high on a couple of these arms, and it's like I'm not high on Ferguson, but they are.
Yeah, it's probably the safety net where it's like, oh, he's done it before, versus
Yeah.
everybody else aside from Bednar like hasn't really done it before.
One player that I wanted to talk about more in a larger conversation here. Brian Reynolds is projected for another 2-win season. Remember when he put up 6.3 in 2021? It was like one of the best outfielders in baseball.
Yeah, and then he forgot how to play defense.
2.8, 2.1, 2.1. Those have been his WAR totals over the last 3 seasons, and
Have
then
you seen the
projected for another one.
Have you seen the
Like,
defensive metrics on
yeah,
him?
they're not good, but also offensively, what is it? It's 270 with 20 to 25 home runs, slightly above
It's
average
been the
WRC
same thing.
plus.
So you mentioned the 6.3. It's 123, 109, 118. He's hitting 260 to 270. He's hit 27 homers, 24 homers, 24 homers. He's going to strike out in the low 20s. He's going to walk in the 8 to 9% range. It's the same exact thing every single year. The thing that has killed him to this point. DRS. Let's go outs above average, right? In the outfield. 2022, he played center for the most part, negative 14 DRS, negative 7 outs above average. Played left in 23, negative 3 outs above average. Played left in 24, negative 9 outs above average. He's really bad defensively, which is why they were, rumored to try the first base thing, but they're going to run him out there again.
So I think if you asked baseball fans, take out Cubs fans, take out Pirates fans, just take them both out. Ask baseball fans who's better, Ian Happ or Brian Reynolds. I think 80% of people would vote Brian Reynolds when Ian Happ has been better in every season, except for that 6.3 F4. Over the last 3 seasons, Ian Happ is like doubling his F4 while putting up a 120 WRC plus or higher every year.
Yeah, Ian Happ is objectively better than
But
Brian
in
Reynolds.
I think in the eyes of baseball fans, Brian Reynolds, like Brian Reynolds was one of the best players in baseball in 2021, so we feel like he's better, but like there's no comparison. It's Ian Happ by kind of a decent
A
margin,
wide margin. Yeah, he's running laps
which I think
around.
is a weird thing for even my brain to think about.
I get it.
Yeah. One positive, O'Neal Cruz taking a big step in the power department. Projected as many home runs as Mike Trout and Jose Ramirez. Now it's only 28, but we got to remember, like Shohei Ohtani's projected for 42,
That's
right? So,
disrespect. That's disrespect to Jose Ramirez.
no, I know,
28.
but I know because he's coming off 39 home runs. But again, he's among the better power hitters in baseball with a 28 home run projection. So don't read too much into that. It's just Jose Ramirez is one of the best power hitters, and so is O'Neal Cruz, according to the Bat X.
That is one of these stories in the National League. Can O'Neal Cruz play center field? Because if he can play center field, offensively, he's maturing to the point where like he could be one of the better players in the National League.
Absolutely. All right, before we get to the National League West, and of course, I'm going to give you all my last word, our
Cool.
last break. Time to look at how the Los Angeles Dodgers are projected in 2025. And shocker, it's all awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so awesome. 5 starters are projected for a 3.53 ERA or lower. Five. Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani, and Roki Sasaki. To put that in perspective, Corbin Burns is projected at a 3.55. Like Dylan Cease 3.51, George Kirby 3.5. Now, what I will say is none of these Dodgers pitchers are projected for over 156 innings, Blake Snell being the high guy there, because it's likely they're going to throw a bunch of different arms and not go every fifth day for everybody. So the innings are a little bit down, but the production is going to be just insane. I mean, they have 6 pitchers projected for 11 strikeouts per nine or more.
Damn.
Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, Michael Kopech, Alex Vesia, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow. Some teams you're lucky to have two. I mean, to get 6 with 2 in the rotation, gross. Tanner Scott taking over his closing duties. Kirby Yates contributing as well. That's how they see the bullpen kind of slating out. It wouldn't be Trinan. It wouldn't be Evan Phillips. They think it's just, yep, Tanner Scott's your job with Kirby Yates getting 13 saves himself. Do you agree with that?
What about the Dodgers collecting Infinity Stones and turning into the hardest opponent the world has ever seen?
No, by Tanner Scott taking over the closing duties for this team. Like
Yeah,
he's
he's
the
the
best
closer.
reliever in this.
They
Yeah,
paid him $60 million. He's the
yeah,
closer.
yeah, absolutely. I just wanted
It
to make
has to
sure.
be that. Yeah, yeah, you're good. Yeah, can I ask you a question? Otani said that he was sold on the direction of the LA Dodgers, right?
Oh, is
When
he?
he signed his free agent deal.
Ah.
But it was like, yeah, they laid out their plans. I'm really excited. Like, I'm sold on the future of the LA Dodgers. What do you think they told him? Like going into the 24 season, you know what I mean? Like the last two off seasons have been them collecting Infinity Stones at a rate that, like, at a pace that nobody collects them at. Where they were doing this thing with a homegrown hybrid with trades and the occasional big ticket free agent, and then they sign Otani, and then they sign Yamamoto to 325 million dollars, and then they sign Tanner Scott, and then they sign Snell, and they extend Glasnow. Like, it's all happened so fast. They extend Edman. I'm just forgetting some.
Yeah.
It's all happened so quickly. Like, do you think they told him, "Here's what we're gonna do"?
This is what I think they told him, and I think this is what sold him. Now, this is all conjecture. It's just me guessing, but this
Right.
is what I can imagine. So we were down there in Miami watching the World Baseball Classic, watching Team Japan beat the United States of America. And I'm sure the Dodgers said, with you here, we will become the hub of all of the best Japanese players. All of your teammates that helped you win the World Baseball Classic over the United States, over the Dominican Republic, we're going to get them all here. Yamamoto, then Roki Sasaki, right? And of course, they're going to bring him more. And then he also said, well, we still are the Dodgers. We're going to be in on every free agent that isn't coming over internationally. And he said, yeah, I'll make my home here.
Yeah. So part of me is thinking they just said to him, everybody that's good that you want to be teammates with, we will sign.
We'll take all your boys because all his
We'll
boys
take
are
we'll
sick.
take all the fellas.
You
Like, are you a
know,
Snell guy? Welcome, welcome to LA, Blake Snell. Are you a Tanner Scott guy? He pissed you off when you faced him.
bring him.
Welcome to LA,
Yeah,
Tanner Scott.
we're
Like,
the one guy you didn't like facing Tanner Scott. Sure, we'll give him 60 million. We don't
yeah,
care. We'll
sure,
defer
all
some of
right.
it. Whatever.
Just outbid everybody. I will say the projection that jumped out to me with the Dodgers, Sasaki, 131 innings at a 3.53. Whoa,
Too high or too low?
too high.
Huh. I kind of agree.
130 innings?
Like we forget that he hasn't really put up elite numbers.
It's an oblique and a shoulder thing. He put up elite numbers 2 years ago, but he was like those. They were not elite numbers in Japan last year.
Here's some foreshadowing. So his strikeout line is going to be around 150 and a half. Probably going to go under. You know the last time he went over 150 strikeouts in a season?
Has he?
2022. Didn't do it in 23, didn't do it in 24 either.
They have him. They have him at 154 punch outs.
I'm going to take that under.
Zips has him at 204 punch outs,
Yeah.
167 innings. That's too high.
Yeah, that's too high. One other one that I wanted to note, just because I've always loved this player, Will Smith, finishing third in F4 on the Dodgers at 4.3,
He's
right behind
awesome.
Mookie and Shohei. You'd think Freddie, Teoscar, even Tommy Edman racking up the WAR, bringing over Michael Conforto, Max Muncy, of course. Like they have so many great players. Will Smith, and he's projected as the best offensive catcher in all of baseball while being a plus defender. So of course you have, William Contreras with Milwaukee, you have Cal Raleigh with the Mariners, but Will Smith projected best catcher in baseball offensively and among the better defensive catchers as well.
Contreras is going to be the best offensive catcher in baseball, but I think Will Smith has a case to be number two,
Yeah.
and that is exciting. I'm a big fan of Will Smith, and I think that he gets the Dodger bump because he's so well protected in that lineup. He could be the second best offensive catcher in Major League Baseball, and he could be hitting sixth
Yeah.
for the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers are pretty good. But they just won their first spring training game, by the way. Did you see those graphics I was dropping on Twitter whenever they lose? That's the only way we can shit talk them, losing spring
No,
training.
are they 1-3 now in Cactus League play?
I was having fun with that. I was like, I think it's going to be the last time I can say anything negative about this team.
Probably.
Is in February spring training games when they're playing like a quarter of their team for 4 innings.
Right.
San Diego Padres. I want to start off rip. Fernando Tatis Jr. back to being a superstar. Power increase, eighth most home runs in the National League. That's what they have him projected at. Like, it's just good to see. Like, you click on the Padres projections, Tatis there at the top. And this is a team with Machado, with Bogarts, with Merrill taking that next step. But it's like, nope, Tatis, man among boys. Good to see.
WAR in 25. Machado, Tatis, Merrill. Rank them.
Tatis, Merrill Machado.
Me too.
Yeah. And Merrill's second projected WAR, by the way.
Really? Did we get
Yeah,
it right? Like
we
their
got it right.
projection is Tatis Merrill Machado?
Yeah, that is their projection as well.
Hmm.
I think we kind of all agree with that at this point.
Yeah.
One thing that I also know, so Fernando Tatis Jr. in one corner of the outfield. They lose Profar, and is it going to be Tirso or Nellis, or is it going to be one of the combinations of Jason Hayward or Gavin Sheets? They even brought in Yuli Gurriel because Tirso or Nellis is projected negative 0.4 F4, the lowest on the team. Like they have
That's
bench guys, they have minor leaguers who are going to contribute. No, Tirso or Nellis dead last on the Padres.
isn't it going to be a Jason Hayward Connor Joe platoon?
Maybe something like that too. Connor Joe as
I
well. I
think
forgot his name.
so.
Yeah.
Also, Sheets, like we'll see how that goes.
I don't know. I kind of like Sheets. Sort of. He's horrible defensively, but he can hit. Maybe, maybe it's Connor Joe. I don't know, but I did think that was interesting. One that I think is a major positive: Nick Pivetta coming in.
Yeah.
145 innings at a 3.99 ERA. That doesn't sound great, but those are great
They
projections
need it,
when
and the
we
big
realize
one,
they're conservative.
and the big one is 145 innings. Like
Yeah,
if he clears that, if he gets to 150, 160, those are needed innings for San Diego this year.
it's huge for this team because there's zero answer at the five spot after Darvish. Projections, they think they all are going to suck, just to put it plainly. Like the
Yep.
lefty they brought in from the KBO, by
Kyle
the
Hart.
projections, Kyle Hart, excuse me, has as
Kyle
good of a
Hart's the Dodger.
yep, Kyle Hurt, they're all, has a good chance of filling that spot as much as a Matt Waldron or a Randy Vasquez. Like they don't have an answer there. So to have Nick Pivetta to go Cease, King, Pivetta, Darvish,
Yeah,
we can win some games here.
that's big.
Bullpen looks legit. Suarez closing with Jason Adams setting up. I would have Jason Adams as my closer, but Robert Suarez is still a really good reliever. Followed by Jeremiah Estrada, who could also close games for them. Yuki Matsui, Adrian Morejon, Wandy Peralta. By the projections, it looks like one of the best bullpens in baseball still.
Yeah, by the eye test too, it looks like one of the best bullpens in baseball.
Agreed. All right, let's move on to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Nothing jumped out pitching wise. Just it's good to see that everything looks really solid. Like this team
Oh,
won
what?
89. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. What are FOT's projections? Like, I'm really curious about FOT. I can pull those up,
Yeah.
but
So
give me your spiel.
basically, everything looks solid because they last year we forget like this team won 89 games. They were the best offense in baseball in the second half. They were a top 3 offense overall in Major League Baseball, but they missed the playoffs. Why? 27th in ERA as a staff. 27th. And then you look at the bullpen, 24th. I mean, then you go through each one and you're like, how did they even get there? Well, Jordan Montgomery threw to a 6 ERA in 111 innings. Eduardo Rodriguez was bad and hurt, threw to a 5 ERA. Merrill Kelly, hurt. Zach Allen, down year. And then you're like, well, Ryan Nelson gave them 60 good innings at the end of the year. Brandon Pfaadt pitched to a 4.71 ERA. Now, a lot of it was super unlucky. It's not all of his fault, right? His expected numbers, ERA, those peripheral numbers, they were all in the threes. So it's good to see that when you go to the projections, Brandon Pfaadt is at a 4 ERA. I think he can even outperform that. But to see like Corbin Burns, big time projection clearly. Zach Gallen bouncing back. Merrill Kelly bouncing back. And then you keep going too. Like Brandon Pfaadt, obviously good projections, taking a
Yeah.
leap there. But how about Eduardo Rodriguez throwing 130 innings at a 4 ERA? How about Jordan Montgomery, low fours in 100 innings? Like if they get that from Jordan Montgomery this year, this team is one of the best overall in baseball, no doubt about it. It's a top 5 team if Jordan frickin' Montgomery is giving them good innings here.
Yeah. Fought, by the way, 100 and what 50 innings, I want to say it, like at a 4 even. It was just weird because he's got a career 5 ERA. The first year like we get it, it was the first regular season, and then in the postseason he was amazing. But last year it was like a 4.78 ERA and a 3.7 expected ERA. But yeah, that was the one that really intrigued me. Do you buy the Montgomery thing? I don't.
Absolutely not.
The one that jumped
But
out
it's
to me
good to
was,
see.
yeah, sure, why
Yeah,
not?
you know?
The one that jumped out to me was Dre Jamison. They're only projecting him 42 innings. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think it's more out of the bullpen. They just don't think he's going to crack any sort of
Sure, but I
routine
think he's going to be
spot.
an awesome reliever.
I think they gave all of the Infinity Stones to Jordan Montgomery. They gave him Dre Jameson, they gave him Ryan Nelson. They were like Jordan Montgomery for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I
Oh
don't know
well.
why. But also continuing into the bullpen, Justin Martinez, AJ Puck, Kevin Ginkel, Ryan Thompson, Joe Mantiply, all really good projections. Like this pitching staff is greatly improved. Now the offense is gonna take a little bit of a step back with Jock Peterson leaving, with Christian Walker leaving. Pretty sour on the Josh Naylor projections. 11 less home runs than last year. WRC plus dropping to 106 with a 1.2 F4. Now I know it's harder to hit home runs in Arizona at Chase Field than it is at Progressive Field in Cleveland, but dropping from 31 to 20 feels very extreme. And I know that we've had bets with Josh Naylor and you've been on the anti side of him, but still, like, we can all come together and say Josh Naylor only 20 home runs, 1.2 F4, that's too low.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
We're
One other
like,
one.
this is our handshake meme. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
One other one. I guess I'm not surprised, but I still wanted to talk about it. Pavin Smith taking a big drop, 142 WRC plus last year to 103 this year. I don't think even the biggest Diamondbacks fan in the world expects him to repeat 142, but down all the way to 103 in likely a platoon role with Randall Grichuk, I think they're not doing him, enough service either.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Pavin Smith because I see the kid at Virginia that hit what more home runs than he had
He was
strikeouts, and
so
I'm like,
good. He was
he
so
was so
good.
good at UVA, and I've just been waiting for a long time, and then as soon as it happened in 24, I was like, ah, no, it's been too long. Like I'm not sure. I think I might be out at this point. It's like Andrew Vaughn. If Vaughn has a great year in 25, it's like, yeah, no, it was too long. You lost me.
A positive for the Diamondbacks, Gabriel Moreno taking another step in the right direction, finishing third on this team in F4, just behind Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte. And again, Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll's projections are awesome.
Yeah, I
So,
understand.
all right, let's go over to the Giants. And one of the biggest jumps, Jung Hoo Lee. Projections love him. 83 WRC plus last year. How about a projected 118? And remember, these are conservative. 0.2 F4 to 2.9. That would put him ninth in F4 among all center fielders, at least projected wise, and sixth in WRC plus. Are you buying that Jung Hoo Lee is going to be a definitive top 10 center fielder next year?
That's an absolutely insane WRC plus for Jung Hoo Lee. I understand, like, oh, league average defender and all that. And, like when he was healthy, he only played 37 games, but he had an 8% K rate. So I buy the sub 10% K rate. Like, I buy the improvement from 83 to 118. I don't buy that. I buy 83 to 105, but that's an insane jump to 118.
I agree. It's jumping the gun a little bit, but sometimes when you have these, like I really take notice in these because they don't just get these out of nowhere, right? It's the big jumps for a guy that, you know, did hit for much more power than he showed in his limited sample in Major League Baseball. Like he looked like he was swinging a wet pool noodle, but in the KBO, he was freaking mashing.
Yeah.
So maybe they project a lot of that coming over. We'll see now that he's finally healthy. And then talk about a big step back, right? Jung Hoo Lee taking a leap. Tyler Fitzgerald, 132 WRC plus last year, down to 88 this year.
Yeah, I mean these are drastic, yes, but are you not expecting a huge step back from Tyler Fitzgerald?
3.0 F4 to 1.2. Jeez. And he's
I
playing
mean,
40 more games in these
he had
projections.
an out of body experience for a month.
Yeah.
I get it.
But
I
that's
don't know.
basically putting him at like, all right, you're almost unplayable. I mean, you're
Yeah, that's
you're
that's
not even
not bad.
replacement level.
That's not right.
Yeah.
The one that gets me, to be honest, is Adamas. Did you see Adamas's projections?
Those made
Three.
sense to me. Just a little bit of a downturn offensively going over to a new park in the first year of a big deal. I wasn't surprised by that.
Oh, dude, 109 WRC plus. Like,
It was 118 last year in Milwaukee. It's not that much of a drop.
in the defensive thing too, like you go from a 4.8 win season to a 3.5 win season. That kind of got me. But I
But his
understand
first
we're a
year in
year removed.
Oracle, like I could see that.
Yeah, I guess. I
Still a
don't
good
know.
player. Like
I
if you
just
look at
love.
projections, like
I
three and a half F4
love
is still very
Adamas.
solid.
I'm a huge Willie Adamas guy. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
I guess I wasn't shocked by that. I was like, oh,
Okay.
a little bit of a
Yeah.
decline slightly in your first year.
You
I mean,
just
remember
looked at it and was like, oh,
Lindor?
they're being conservative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lindor came over and he struggled in his first year with the Mets.
Yeah,
Like it happens. Trey Turner struggled in his first, time with the Phillies. Shit
yeah,
happens. They're still a really good player.
sure.
Um, I wanted to also mention Bryce Eldridge because I saw a quote from him that he wants to force his way onto the big league club, and we saw him hit an absolute moonball in spring training
450
too,
feet. Yeah.
just crushed. Kind of pissed that Fangraphs or the Bad X has him just basically a September call up, like only recording 23 games. I think he can make an impact soon.
September call up is not right. I think before the All Star break. I just have no idea whether it's going to be May or July 1. But he's going to play a lot more than that.
I'm glad we agree on that.
Yeah.
The rotation, the projections look pretty good. Kyle Harrison, Justin Verlander, Jordan Hicks, Hayden Birdsong are kind of all projected the same thing. So my question to you would be, after Logan Webb, who is projected to dominate, and Robbie Ray putting together a solid season by the projections, who would round out the five for you between Harrison, Verlander, Hicks, and Birdsong?
Verlander.
Okay.
So it's at that point we have Webb, Verlander, and Ray settled.
Yep.
And then it's Birdsong, Harrison, and Hicks for those two.
Yep.
Hicks, because you're paying him a lot of money. And then it's a fight for the five. And every Giants fan listening to this knows that it's a fight for the five between Harrison and Birdsong. I personally like Birdsong more because he's more dynamic than Harrison. I understand that Harrison's primary pitch is better than Birdsong's primary pitch, and Harrison can ride a fastball to success at points. But I like the arsenal as a whole of Birdsong more. And that changeup is nasty. We talk about that kick change. Like Birdsong was kind of the first mover of an awesome kick change. So I side with Birdsong, but this month is going to be huge. And when you talk like position battles to monitor in Major League Baseball, that five starter for San Francisco is one that I'm watching very closely between
100%.
Harrison and Birdsong.
I think it's going to be Webb, then it's going to be Ray, then it's going to be Verlander. The way I would have it, I would kick Hicks out of this rotation, and I
And
would just
push
try
him
and
to
get
the
him back to the
pen.
bullpen. But they are paying him, so I agree with you. It's probably going to be Hicks, and then I agree. I would go Birdsong. But the reason I wanted to bring this up too is among all of those names, the projections are slightly higher on Harrison over all of the names I listed:
Yeah.
Verlander, Hicks, and Birdsong. Thought that was interesting.
It is interesting. The fastball characteristics are very good, but again, like that's just kind of it with Kyle Harrison.
Last one for the Giants, Camilo Doval right back to it. 3.56 ERA, third in innings in the Giants bullpen.
He's gross.
Yeah.
I'm totally sure. And if Doval is going right, Ryan Walker and Doval in the eighth and ninth, and Walker gets the ninth this go around, like that can be nasty, and that can close out a bunch of awesome games.
Moving over to the Rockies, our last team before we get to my last word. I tried to find good ones, I promise. I tried. I really did. Michael Toglia, power. He's got it.
Real G's move in silence like lasagna. Tolia, Michael Tolia.
Michael Tolia. Um, Nolan Jones. Do you think he bounces back? Because Fangraphs doesn't. 90 WRC plus 14 home runs. They're
I
basically
think
saying
he
2023 was an outlier.
I think he bounces back.
Me too. But I was like staring down the barrel of all these. I'm like, Jesus, like this is not good.
They're just being too
Um,
mean, dude.
you want to hear another mean projection? How about a 5.05 ERA for Chase Dollander once he comes up? Damn.
That's mean, but like it's also just a pitcher in Colorado.
Herman Marquez is back, projected 4.84. Damn it.
Also, Brenton Doyle being projected 2.9 wins is mean.
I
I
wanted to
don't.
bring him, right? I wanted to bring some good projections for the Rockies, and it's like Tovar and Doyle, they think are not going to take another leap, but more of the same, maybe even a little bit worse. And then everybody else has gotten worse or it stays the same. I mean, and also another tough thing to hear if you're a Rockies fan, nobody is projected to come up and really help from the minors. Like Drew Romo, I guess. He's projected seventh on in WAR on the team, like the seventh highest among all position players in 57 games. And it's not because Drew Romo has really good projections in those 57 games. It's just that he's playing 57 games and he's good defensively.
Don't they have Amador projected at like 35 plate appearances?
Yeah.
That's wrong. Flat out, that's not correct.
Yeah, but I mean, what really should we expect from him?
Uh, I don't know, but like they're going to give him ample run. There's nothing that you're going to look at in a projection system and say, yeah, no, I'm feeling Rocktober this year, but Rocktober's coming in 26.
I tried to find something, but shout out Zach Veen for that bat flip.
That was, that was crazy. Great. Shout out Aram for that shot, man. That's a beautiful
Perfect.
side angle.
Absolutely perfect. All right, you ready for my last word?
I'm ready.
All right. So, if you ever thought to yourself, you're a lazy piece of shit,
Yeah,
you're
all the
nowhere
time.
near, Jack, you're nowhere near the mola mola fish, better known as the sunfish. I also want to apologize, and I'm glad that you're back on here. I was wrong about the great white shark fact. I was
You
just wrong.
know what?
I was just
You
wrong.
you blew my mind, and you were just wrong.
I was wrong. It was like the
You know,
largest
facts are
male.
important.
I
It's
know.
better to be right than first, Peter.
And I'm glad people are enjoying the last word segment because I've never been more corrected on something. Like I've had a lot of baseball takes. The freaking shark thing. I got DMs, we got people to YouTube comments. I love it. When I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But I guess it was the greatest male because like the females are bigger, or maybe it's vice versa. But yeah, the greatest female or the largest great white shark is like 20 feet, 3,000 pounds, like we thought.
Oh, so we were right.
Yeah, we were
Okay, so
right.
it's just a
But it's the
beast. All right.
largest male. Yeah. So
Okay.
I was wrong there, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong here. So again, the sunfish. I saw a clip about it. I looked more up about it because I thought it's hilarious. So this fish can weigh up to 4,400 pounds. It's the heaviest and boniest fish in the ocean, and it can barely move. It's insensitive to pain and can barely swim. So it's basically free food for predators because they don't even fight back because they can't feel the pain. It's just a floating enormous blob.
Do they
But
like survive when they get eaten?
it's no, they're dead. Like once they get eaten, they're dead. And the reason they don't go extinct, because you'd think a creature like this would
Yeah.
go extinct immediately.
Right.
They release 300 million eggs at birth. Yeah,
No, that's not true.
it might be wrong again, but I looked it up on the internet. It said that.
That's
Look up
not true.
sunfish 300 million eggs. And do you know,
Sunfish
and
egg number.
remember when I'm talking about lazy piece of shit? These things get stuck at the top of the surface of the ocean because again they can barely swim and some have died from the heat from the sun just laying there. Like imagine laying at the beach and you see like a fat guy laying there and he just doesn't move, doesn't
Wait.
feel the heat.
Yeah, female ocean sunfish can lay up to 300 million eggs in a single spawning season. This is more than any other known vertebrate. Sunfish release their eggs into the water where they are fertilized by sperm. All the eggs hatch at the same time. The newly hatched larvae swim together for protection. Larvae grow quickly, losing their tail and developing spines. They resemble miniature puffer fish.
There was a story in Japan that I thought was kind of cute. Um, an aquarium closed down for renovations and they had a sunfish that's mooed, I guess went downhill from the lack of people looking at him.
Yeah.
And then they put fake people in front of the exhibit, and I guess his mood improved, like this sunfish.
Aw. Yeah,
Like it's just,
speaking of showman.
it's a big fish that can barely swim and doesn't feel pain. And the only reason they're here is because they have $300 million eggs during a spawning session, but they're basically just free food for anybody in the ocean.
I'm trying to figure out
And I guess their
broadcast.
meat is really bad too for humans. Like it's like a terrible tasting fish, so nobody eats it. They're just like
I'm so
blobs in the
confused.
ocean.
We're getting somewhere weird, but this is scientific. Like I just googled how sunfish procreate because I'm trying to figure that out. Like, okay, you got 300 million eggs. It's called broadcast spawning. So they release eggs, they release the other stuff into the water near the eggs, fertilized externally in the water, and then it's like you're good. It's just a floating fertilized egg that just hatches.
Yeah.
Is there a doc on YouTube I can watch here? Like I want to understand the process of this thing because it just kind of hangs out.
I'm telling you, just go look up on YouTube sunfish, and it's this semi truck of a fish just floating, doing nothing, just not eating anything, just freaking floating. and just being a freaking lazy piece of shit. I can't believe it like can barely move. Like it'll get trapped on the surface of the ocean and die from the heat from the sun, and it won't leave it.
I'm looking at yeah, I'm looking at photos of a scuba diver like next to a sunfish. It's crazy. It almost looks like a beanbag. It
Yeah,
just
just
looks
a
like
big bag laying in the water.
that's crazy. That's a fun last word. I love that.
So I'm glad you like it, and hopefully everybody else did. And if you did, please rate and review Spotify and on Apple Podcasts 5 stars. It is the best way to support, while also liking, subscribing, and commenting on our YouTube page as well. And of course, new merch. Go check out our Just Baseball merch shop. It looks beautiful. Shout out Colby Olson. He was making a bunch of changes to it, and it looks awesome. So again, you don't have to buy anything, of course, if you want to. We'd love for you to do so, but just go check it out. Any feedback that we can get on it is greatly appreciated from everybody listening in the off season. So for Jack McMullen, I'm Peter Apple. We will be back on Wednesday, and with that, thank you, everybody.